So I'm very happy to have you on episode one with Bobby Calloway, which we have been talking about for a while.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. I've been counting the minutes until we get to do this. So
yeah, absolutely. And a visual, we're actually visually now on YouTube as well, which is something to be thrived about and excited about, I reckon,
oh
as
yeah.
well. So, Bobby, because this is a brand new podcast, I have added in some new elements, some new little segments for us to entail. And before we even get into who you are and what your background is and everything else, we're going to do a little segment called Richie Swipe of the Day.
Oh my God.
Basically, what this is just a little nitpick that I notice in society nowadays, and kind of something for me to moan about, basically. So, Bobby, and I hope you have a swipe of the day as well. But anyway, Richie's swipe of the day this week is people having obnoxiously loud conversations on public transport.
Yeah, I feel that.
Talk to me.
Yeah, autistic guy problems, I'm super sensitive to sound. And so I think I can't remember, it was a few days ago. I was on the train and I can remember him. He had a very loud voice, and he had a thick Northern Irish accent. And like I had noise canceling headphones in, and he was talking at the top of his voice the whole trip. And I was just like, God, I can't take this. But I mean, he had a little kid with him, so I'm not sure if he was, having to like put effect in for the child. But it was hard going on the ears.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
feel like it's a nitpick for me because I feel like it's kind of exaggerated conversation. So obviously you hop on a bus, it's packed with people. There's a certain exaggeration in the voice. Well, will I have to be heard here? I'll just let everybody know my business. And you'd be very surprised how many people are actually out there that are like that. You know what I mean? Um, I don't know if you feel the same as me.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know like if it's a public space where it's like loads of people talking together, it does get hard to hear. So I kind of sometimes feel like I have to shout to even just kind of be almost heard. But uh, obviously I don't know what I sound like in public. So, but I like to believe that I'm not, talking at the top of my voice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's my little swipe of the day, Bobby. A brand new segment. But have you got a swipe of the day, Bobby? Have you?
I mean, people with bad timekeeping, does that count?
Yes, it does.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I have been like, I guess I've just had to. We're Wicklow based, so we're kind of limited in public transport. Unlike the Dubs who get they miss a bus, they could just get the next one. They can get the train, they can get the Lewis, a taxi, or they could even walk there. It's like we miss something, we're waiting for hours, or we're fucking stranded. And I'm just like, I cannot fathom people who like go out of their way to be late.
Mm,
If I'm like more than 5 minutes late, I will feel so bad, and I'll be like, calling people and letting them know, is like, I think I've been held up here or whatever. And I mean, I always say that I'm never late, and if I am, it's because someone else has made me late.
yes, exactly, exactly. Timekeeping's a big one for me as well. And it's always seems to be family with me that are keeping me running late for some reason.
Same.
Probably why I don't talk to having them anymore. But anyway, that's a different topic. It just caused me to go that angry and
Mhm.
timekeeping. Right, Bobby. So for anyone that doesn't know who you are, obviously we're good friends because we went back a while, but we'll just begin most of these episodes now with just an introduction about who you are and where you're from and just a little bit about you in general.
Mhm. Okay, well, hey guys and gals and non-binary people. My name is Bobby, and I'm an actor, writer, and well, I have to say YouTuber now because I'm a full-time YouTuber now, and I don't know. I guess you can kind of call me a director because I am trying to get a feature made soon. So, yeah, and I've known Richie since 2018, and every minute of being his friend has been magic.
And I didn't pay him to say that either. I didn't pay him to say that. You
I
know
mean,
what?
but if you want to, throw me a little something for saying that, I wouldn't say
Yeah,
no.
throw you a tenner after this, Bobby. Through Revolut.
Mhm.
um, brilliant stuff. So yeah, as Bobby mentioned, I've known him now since Jesus. Yeah, it's been 2018,
Mhm.
and we've known each other, and we're going to talk about it now eventually. But we met on Vikings,
Mhm.
and if me and Bobby could sit down with you lie in a room and have a discussion, we'd probably talk all night, probably wouldn't we, about the stories and just the
Mhm.
funny times we had and the experiences we had on it, and actually the injuries that we had because. I remember when you used to charge with the shield, I'd end up getting cut fingers and everything after.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
in one of the battle scenes, like I was most of the guys I was, that were my opponents were pretty respectful or anything, but there was one guy who just like properly fucking smashed his weapon into you, and
mm,
like I was so afraid like he would knock me down and I'd like end up getting trampled on or whatever. So yeah.
it wasn't, yeah, it wasn't pleasant. And you have to remember those Vikings were big lumps of lads
Hmm.
and very beardy as well. You know what I mean? They're bearded tickle you and all as well. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's and a load of men charging that at one another in woods, it's going to end up with injuries, isn't it? As we all
Hmm.
found, we died only 130 times.
Hmm.
So
And again, like it was 12-hour days, so like everyone was very, when you're awake that long, you're gonna get punchy and you're not gonna have like perfect coordination or whatever. So that's why accidents happen on those sets so much.
yes, exactly. But an enjoyable experience nonetheless, Bobby.
Oh, of course I'd do it
Oh,
all
and of
over again.
course, it's essential now because that's where we met, of course. And if we hadn't have met
Hmm.
on Vikings, we wouldn't have met probably at all. Do you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
all these experiences happen for a reason, I find.
Hmm.
But so if we want to talk a bit about Vikings, right? I kind of know I wanted to get into being an extra, and I was a big fan of Vikings when the first episode came out. I want to know how you ended up being on set for Vikings. Was it something you had scouted or had looked for?
It was just something that was recommended to me by friends. I mean, I was still pretty green in my acting career, and I definitely knew I wanted on-set experience.
Yeah.
And I think I submitted for it for 3 years in a row before I finally, no, maybe not 3 years in a row because I only started acting in 2017. But and I remember like there was a call out for like special extras, so we were like a notch above the background and then like below the stunt people. So, um, and yeah, they and the bad timekeeping comes into play as well because I was being driven over to the boot camp. Remember, we had to get one of those, and it was in the studio in Ashford. I remember it, and I I was on time, but then that 133 bus, which is the bane of my existence, it
Mm,
pulled in at the stop just as we were driving up to it. So we had to wait behind it for everyone to get on and then for it to drive off. And I was even having people calling me. He's like, Bobby, are you on your way? He's like, I'm literally just outside. It's just like I had this thing blocking me.
yeah.
Sorry,
For
rant
anyone that
over.
doesn't, that's a rant on the 133. He's not the only one to rant about it because it's one of those frustrating public transport buses that just you could be having the best day ever and it will ruin your day just by being
Mhm.
delayed again. And we go back to timekeeping, Bobby. Don't
Yeah,
get me
I mean,
started on the
and
133 because that could be a whole episode.
oh yeah, I mean, I will say they have like seemingly cleaned up their act now since the pandemic. I haven't had
Yeah.
any issues with them the few times I've gotten it since then. But
Yeah. Um, Now, I'm trying to think of funny stories on Vikings. I know you have a few.
I mean, you seem to have a better memory about them than I did because
Yeah.
when we did the Grounded Way interview, I completely forgot about the push-ups one.
Yeah, the push-ups one was great. That was as I remember it was a 6 a.m. thing when I'd come into the studio and you'd be there. Now I'd hope that you'd be only doing press-ups, but I think you had a whole gym routine that you had before I even got in at 6 o'clock. You're
Ah,
there
yeah,
for,
like
you
I
could have
think
been
one of
there since
those.
3 o'clock in the morning, Bobby, for all I know.
I am way too lazy for that.
You
There
were
is no
there a
way.
while, though. You were there a while.
Oh yeah, that was only because I was getting a lift in with someone who was already driving to the city at like 5 a.m. So it was just I just tagged along and like Ashford was on the way, so that was just easier.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and we have to talk about obviously we've talked about it before, but today we ran late and the bus came and picked us up an hour later or something like that. And I remember I'd never changed into a set of clothes as quick in my life.
Oh yeah, I mean, but I was having a fine old time, while we were waiting because we all got the chance to talk and bond, and
Yeah,
as much of a goody two shoes as that makes me sound like.
yeah, yeah. Um, there's some funny memories of it, honest to God. And I think one of our actual first encounters, I don't think it was at the studio. I think it was while we were on set. Was the Brummy accent and stuff, and me thinking you were Australian or English, sorry, and you thought you'd caught me with the Australian accent, which you
Yeah,
didn't, unfortunately.
it was. Yeah, I remember it was on the bus, and yeah, we were waiting for the driver, because we were all on there, and we've been on there for minutes, and I just was, I think the tiredness had kicked in, so I just wanted to be a troll, and I was like, well, yeah, guys, what's happening here? Like, where's the driver, mate?
Yeah,
And I remember saying to you, because earlier that day, I mean, I'd just been talking my normal accent, and an American on set had thought I was American as well. I was like,
mm,
can you believe that? Someone thought I was American. And then you go, well, that's an English accent. I was like, damn,
yeah,
I didn't pull it off.
yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly. Um, right. So we need to talk about. You say you're an actor and stuff. So where did the inspiration or where did the drive come from to go into acting, Bobby? From minute one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was always in hindsight, I was always a kid who loved performing. Like I always loved it in school. Whenever we get to do something like put on these mini plays or whatever, and just like play different characters, and I was always kind of role playing with my friends and everything. But I remember when I started around high school, I suddenly had a massive confidence problem where it was like I was so afraid of, because I was bullied pretty nastily in like both sets of schools, and I was afraid of being laughed at if I because acting is a very vulnerable thing. Like you're kind of sort of putting yourself at the mercy of your audience or whatever, and yeah, so uh I wanted to, but I didn't know I wanted to, and like I told myself I couldn't do it to kind of I was really just scared to because of all the bullying, right? And
Yeah.
so I'd kind of try and find different outlets for that. Like I spent 4 years as a pro wrestler, and that was my performance training in a sense. I also went to college to study TV and film, like thinking that I would be a director. And then it was just there was one day I remember. Well, I started to watch Band of Brothers, because there's a great actor in there called Ian Bailey who I'd become a fan of. So I was making my way through all his filmography, and I remember kind of watching the last scene of the last episode, and kind of all this emotion was pouring out of me, and I even had a few tears coming down my cheeks, and I just realized, it was like, yeah, this is what you want to do. This is, you want to do this. And well, it took me forever to work up the courage to go to a class. And then after those classes were over, it took me even more courage to kind of get all the things you need, like, headshots and showreel footage and all this other stuff. And then going out on auditions. But um, eventually I couldn't find reasons not to do it,
Mm.
like when you're so afraid to do something, you will always talk yourself out of it. Eventually I had no more reasons left, and so I just had to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. You touched in on pro wrestling there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you saying like a while back in the grounded way and stuff that you did find it a struggle. It was a great kind of experience for you to it was a necessity kind of to go through that experience, but at the same time it was a struggle. So like kind of what point did it get to the stage where it kind of got a bit tough for you personally, like in that industry?
Ugh. I mean, it always was pretty tough, but I would kind of go through periods where it was like, yeah, I think I'm getting this. And then I'd kind of have a knockback that would just kind of like get rid of all my confidence. And I remember the first really bad one I got, I'd been there 6 months. And I actually remember saying to my trainer, like, oh, today is like officially 6 months since I started here. And it was just a really hard training session, like harder than anything I'd had to do before. And I was just like, for the next few weeks, I was just having like mini heart attacks whenever I was on the bus to training, and there were a couple of times that I just kind of couldn't train because I was just so panicky and like fucking panic attacks all the time.
Yeah.
And eventually I kind of rebounded, because there was one trainer there who really helped me out, and he was always really encouraging for me. And again, I got some confidence back. And then it was just, it was just kind of an endless series of I'd have a period of a good few months, and then something bad would happen, and I would just kind of be, I'd just be completely useless. And the idea of just stopping kind of never occurred to me because I remember I was pretty young. Like I defined myself as the wrestler, so like quitting was never an option. And it wasn't until I tore my ACL, which oh god, wow, that was a
Jesus,
time because
ACL is a tough one to come back from.
yeah, I mean yeah, and it was my first time ever having like been seriously injured, and anytime it healed, I would keep trying to go back, and then it would get hurt again, and eventually I had to just like take a step back. And in hindsight, that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me because it kind of forced me to really kind of think and reflect on kind of the environment I was in and kind of what I was doing, and like the whole kind of the industry itself it's very hard to navigate, and uh it's a toxic industry. Well, it was back then. I don't know what it's like now.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the person I'd become. Like I look back on kind of what I was like as a person then, and I just like fucking cringe, and I'm just like Jesus Christ. And so like the injury was probably the best thing because like beforehand you would have had to drag me out of there. But
Yeah.
this basically kind of forced me out and forced me to think and kind of like reconsider like, do I want to go back? And it took me a while to finally I was kind of sort of like leaving that door open for a little while, but then once I discovered acting, I was like, no, I got this. This is the creative fulfillment I want, and this is a much better thing for me. So I just kind of closed that door permanently and have no desire to open it again.
Mm. You like you say now that once you're away from that kind of industry, it's like you're kind of free and you don't have to go back to that period again. But would it be a fair point to say that that was kind of an essential journey for you to go through to kind of being who you are today? So that it's almost a necessity to kind of have them struggles to kind of push on and be a better person. Like,
I wouldn't say necessity, but I'm just saying, like it did, I like to think I was able to grow from it,
yeah,
I learned loads, and it definitely taught me a lot about performance. And like, I mean, I'm one of those actors that kind of never really has a problem turning character on because just kind of the way we were trained. Like, say we're on the mats doing punches, and they say for the next 30 seconds you have to do everything in character. So as soon as someone shouts go, you have to turn it on. As soon as someone shouts stop, you have to turn it off. So kind of when we're on set and someone's saying, okay, camera rolling, sound speeding, like, hey, that's when you turn character on. And then when they say cut, that's character turned off. So that was pretty handy.
brilliant. Um, we're gonna go back to your acting now.
Oh dear.
I want to know, like, obviously I know some of them, but for people now who would like to know more about what you act in and everything else and what projects you have, can you even name us just a few now of your current projects that you're working on at the minute, or
Mm-hmm. Oh,
what's
I
the new
mean,
projects?
I don't know if I told you about this one. I wrapped on it recently enough. It was a film called Sal, and it was, get this, it was about a table.
Okay, this is new to me. I haven't heard this yet, so
Yeah, I
fire
mean,
away.
this was when I was contacted like directly and asked to be in, and I read through it and I was like, oh, this is too unique to pass up. And so it's about a table in an Italian restaurant telling its life story and what it's seen like at all its year throughout the years. And so I play three different characters, like kind of throughout the lifetime of the restaurant, like different descendants of the same person. So I have scenes in the 50s, in the 80s, and the 90s, and it's all just, yeah, it's just so fun.
Sounds good. A story about a table
Hmm.
called
Yeah,
Sal.
yeah. Hopefully it'll be out soon. And
Yeah.
And obviously, I should probably mention Spears, which is having yet another cinema release.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
I never know what to say because I assume the same audience will have listened to Grounded Way, so they probably would
Yeah,
know
it's
most
hard to
about
know. I
it.
don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know if they'll support me on this one or not. Like, it's hard to know. Um, because like obviously for people that don't know, Bobby was on a previous podcast of mine with two good friends beforehand, and that was a great interview, and he did mention a lot of things, but unfortunately we do have to we do have to go over some of the same stuff again. Like so,
Okay, so
Spears.
Spears is a neo-noir thriller directed and written by Jared Locke,
Yeah.
and it was something that I was offered to, and it was offered to me kind of very early on in my career, and the role was actually written for me, which was a first that I'm very grateful for.
Something big, yeah. A role written actually for you, like.
Yeah, and it was getting to the point because I only got the script in parts, because there was four different acts, one act taking place in Florence, one in London, one in Berlin, and then the fourth one in Donegal. So I would only get a section here and there. And by the time I got the last bit, I wasn't just reading it to see what my bits were. I was just like, I have to find out what happens next, like what twists and turns the plots are going to take. So, and it took us a long time to film it. I filmed my first scene in April 2019, and I filmed my last scene in January 2020. And I believe that they wrapped on it in kind of late 2020, and they actually started on it in 2018. And so I didn't get to see it until August 2021. So it was a very long creation, and it's had a couple of cinema releases, and it's up on the IFI now, the IFI's website. And if you're in the UK or the US, it is available on Amazon
Mm.
to watch. Yeah, and it will be getting a cinema release in June for one night only in Donegal. So there's plenty of opportunities to see it if you really want to.
Yeah. So everybody head up to Donegal in June
Oh
and watch
yeah,
that.
yeah. You've seen
Yeah.
it, have you?
Do you know what happened? A funny story, actually, right? Do you know when I messaged you to see when you were coming into the film?
Yeah,
So I was about, you weren't in it yet. I was about halfway through it, and I was on, I'd rented it out. Is it you rented out on IFI or somewhere, wasn't it?
yeah, for a couple of days. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was streaming on that, and Bobby, the bloody app kept lagging out every single
Oh,
time, lagging. And every time I'd go in to press play, it would go a few minutes and then it would lag again. And it got to the point where, oh, I'll just come back to this. And I haven't come back to it yet. And I really want to see you in it. So I might actually, after this, watch it tonight because you've reminded me again to go back to it.
oh, I just assumed that since you didn't get back to me, I was like, oh, Richie must have watched it and
Oh,
hated it,
no,
and he's
because
being nice not to say anything.
no, no. If I'd have watched it, I'd have given you a critique, Bobby. That's the
Hmm.
type I am. Sorry now about that, but
Hmm.
I critique all the L performances, Bobby. You know yourself. But
Hmm.
what type of character do you play in it? Because I still haven't seen you in it yet.
Yeah, cool. I'm playing a con man who basically what he does is he prowls like these dating websites and kind of strikes up these conversations with like really lonely single women, and strikes up a conversation with them, and then he'll say something like oh, my landlord's increased my rent, and oh, I have this problem here, I have this surgery, and convinces them to send him money. And then, once they have, he just never sees them again. And he's currently on holiday in Berlin with his girlfriend, Rachel, played by the fantastic Rebecca Rose Flynn. And you would have seen her in my comedy series, The Gumdrops.
Yeah.
And yeah, and she's kind of very mysterious as well. She says that she's married, and he finds bruises on her shoulder one night as well. So, but then again, she's very mysterious, so you're not sure. Is like, are they actually in love? Is he conning her? Is she conning him? So, and then it's all kind of one piece of a much greater story involving, revenge and double crossing and all that sort of thing.
Hmm. Very interesting. Right. Well, I will. I definitely will watch it. I promise you. I promise you I'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw a question at you now, one that'll make you think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you could act the scene with any other actor, right now, past or present, who would it be?
I'm gonna go well since we can just like bend reality itself right now. I would really love to just do a scene with James Dean because
Really?
I don't know if you've seen any of the three films he was in, but yeah, kind of around the time I got inspired to become an actor, a friend put me onto his work, and I watched East of Eden. That's the one of his I love, and it was just kind of a real revelation, and it was so formative for me. And I think even my first short was kind of very heavily inspired by that. So I mean, he was apparently a pain to deal with on set, So, but I would like to, I've had to work with some nightmare people, and I've been able to handle them. So I think maybe I could work with him, but he's remembered as an icon for a reason, and I actually in the film I made last year, I got to wear the James Dean jacket and play someone like dressed as him for Halloween. So that was just kind of me kind of shamelessly living out my fantasies there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, very good. Jeez, I wasn't expecting James Dean.
Really.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But he has a look about him, doesn't he?
Hmm.
Has a certain
And
look about
what's
him.
and what's funny right now, I he is responsible for I've shown you the book that I've finished writing.
Mm.
For those who don't know, I just kind of impulsively got the idea for a children's fantasy book. I kind of got this idea back in February, and it's all finished now. And it was because I was watching a video essay about James Dean's career, and it mentioned that his favorite book was one called The Little Prince. And so I kind of read all about that, bought the book, and kind of was so kind of like very taken by the subject and just like the way it was done that I was just like, I want to write something like this. So that's kind of how that happened.
It's interesting. So you've transformed over into an author as well.
Yeah, well, actually, I was trying to be that before I got into acting because
Mm.
I actually wrote an urban fantasy novel when I was 16, and I had notions of getting that published as well. But if you actually read it, you would instantly know why no one wanted to pick that up. But yeah, so I mean, I have a few books that I've written, but again, it's just the old recurring thing, the confidence problem and imposter syndrome, kind of preventing me from really you know putting myself out there.
Yeah. If there was a genre of film that you could act in or write at the minute that you would think is a challenge, so something that would challenge you, what's the genre that you would love to kind of tackle that you haven't?
I love horror, and I haven't really had much of a chance to do that. I think maybe I've done like one or two horror films, and I think it's one of the best genres out there because it's sort of like it's. I watched a video and it was titled "Why Horror is the Best Genre," and it's sort of like because it's so kind of transformative and like it's almost there are no rules with it, like the the way a performance you can give in a horror movie is so different to like what you can do in another movie. Like the one that's like coming to mind is Florence Pugh in Midsummer, if you've ever seen that.
No, I haven't seen it. No, I mean, I'm a
Hmm.
big fan of Florence Pugh, though. I'm a big fan
Hmm.
of hers. Yeah,
And like, well, that performance is just incredible, and it kind of you wouldn't be able to necessarily get that in necessarily a straightforward drama because it's at once both a folk horror and a breakup movie and about someone dealing with loss, but kind of the way those two subjects like interweave, it's like that's kind of just what makes it great.
yeah.
It's a film I still haven't made up my mind on. I've seen it twice, but you cannot fault her performance at all.
She's very good, and I think she's one of these actresses now that she came out of nowhere, but she's just landing major role after role
Hmm.
after role.
Hmm.
And she's got such a presence about her as well
Exactly, yeah.
on screen. She's unreal.
And if you think about it, like the year 2019, that's when Midsummer came out. She also was playing Paige in Fighting with My Family,
Yeah,
like playing the tough wrestler girl from Norwich. And the
yeah,
very
yeah,
same year in Greta Gerwig's Little Women, she's playing Amy, who's the most traditionally feminine of those four sisters. And kind of, again, it's just like three like hugely different roles, and she just like the range is just fucking incredible.
yeah, yeah. Um, would she be up there as your favorite actress?
I'm not sure. I mean, I respect her. I respect her. She's great. But I have so many other favorites as well.
We'll have to compile a list of top 20.
Oh
Um,
God, yeah, that would be hard.
can we talk about voice acting now, Bobby?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
I was
We'll give
actually
it a go.
supposed to be doing some of that tomorrow, but I know one of the scene partners has caught her first cold in 4 years, so it might
Oh,
be
for
pushed
God's
back.
sake.
Uh,
Shit, rotten timing.
Oh well, it's like there's no rush. We can get it done whenever, yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Do you want to talk a bit to the viewers about the animation you did?
hmm
What was it, Bobby? Now remind me. Do you remember you were playing
Yeah.
somebody
Uh,
golded? What was it?
it was an animated film called Silicone Docs, written and
Yes.
directed by Graham Jones, who I love and is actually one of my favorite directors that I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
And
He's hilarious.
I got to voice two characters. I got to voice Mark Zuckerberg and Evan Spiegel, who isn't as famous, but he's the creator of Snapchat.
Yeah.
And it was a satirical comedy about all these tech moguls like Marissa Mayer, Jeff Bezos, Reed Hastings, and Elon Musk just kind of flying into Dublin during the very first lockdown, and they're just like in search of a pub to just get drunk in, and I mean it's a very kind of it's a very layered portrayal of all these people. Like they're not caricatures, like it's not one dimensional. Graham said that he tried very hard to kind of make sure that he gave a very balanced and nuanced portrayal of them, and I think that comes through. Yeah. Oh yeah, because when you interviewed me on the Grounded Way, I hadn't actually seen it yet, and like now it's out on YouTube to watch, and I remember just like rewatching it so many times because I just loved it.
Mm, mm.
hmm
That's one of them ones you like to look back on fondly.
Yeah, it was a real challenge as well because like you're doing the voices of two real people, and I had so much prep time. Like, well, yeah, it was about like a month listening to each guy's voice and kind of two different recording sessions at like a month apart. So, and because the characters interact a lot and they get into fights a lot, there's scenes where I'm basically just fighting with myself.
Yeah. Because you're playing so many characters, kind of.
Yeah, well, I did a couple of other voices in that, but I don't think they made the cut.
Oh, I see.
I just like for like background characters or.
And the prominent ones remained. The
Mhm.
prominent ones remained, Robbie. Um, I was
I just
gonna
have to
say,
I just have to plug my charger in real fast, so hopefully we
no
can edit
worries, you're
this
all
out.
good.
Mhm.
There he goes. So I suppose I'll have to entertain everyone here while Bobby's gone. We're halfway through this interview on episode 1. Oh, he's back actually. Here he is now. Yeah, he's back. A little YouTube interval
Mhm.
for people out there. Bobby, what I was gonna say to you is I wanted your opinion on the Irish film industry at the minute.
Oh god, sorry, I didn't switch the thing on.
For God's sake. Why are you doing this to me on episode 1? Why? Oh, here he is
Oh,
again. Oh, there
I'm
he
so
is.
sorry about that.
You're
I'm all over the
grand. You're
place.
all good. You're all good. I was
Mhm.
just going to ask you what's your opinion on kind of the rise of the Irish film industry at the minute, because we've had projects now. Like obviously the obvious one is the Banshees of Inisherin, and we've got other
Mhm.
ones as well that have been nominated. How does that sit for you as someone who's heavily involved in that industry? Does it make you think, Jesus, this is something to kind of aim for now and kind of stick with this industry? It's just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it does give you a lot of hope and a lot of well, you're happy to see, recognition happening, but you're also kind of hoping that it's not just going to be, this certain like upper clique who are going to get the rub. Hopefully hopefully like the rest of us here at the bottom can, get some of that as well. And I mean, I would love for more, more projects just kind of have chances taken on them as well, because I've tried to get funding, for my stuff, and it has not been easy, and I haven't been successful yet. And I God loves a tryer, so I will keep trying to. And I know so many other people have tried so hard to get their projects off the ground with funding, and I feel like Ireland needs to get better at kind of nurturing its talent, because there's no shortage of great people here. Like there's so many great talented writers, directors, filmmakers, actors, whatever. And it seems to be the sort of thing that it's hard to make it here, and then they go overseas, to the UK or the US, and then they get famous, and then suddenly Ireland's like ready to claim them when kind of you're the reason they had to go abroad in the first place.
Yeah. There was a great point put to me. I had a lecture about 2 weeks ago, and this guy came in, and he's a producer and stuff. And now that Kin is off the air on RTE, he is the producer for this new show that's going to take the time slot on RTE1. And he was talking about, a question was brought up by a classmate about, imagine sci-fi in Ireland. And like he just smirked and went, yeah, that's just not going to happen because we're just so far behind. And then when you think about it, like you've mentioned before about, well, we're very one-dimensional in terms of our series, in terms of like Tug, Gangland kind of style that we always seem to be going for all the time. What do we have to do, in your opinion, to kind of just branch out there and be more adventurous with the genres that we could go for? Like, I'd love to see an Irish sci-fi. Imagine someone up in a spaceship and going, oh, what's the crack, laddie? You know what I mean? Coming in, you know what I mean? Like something, it's not beyond the imagination, really, if someone has the drive to write a script.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I think it's just like proving that that there is the audience for it, because obviously we're so used to the drugs gangland thing now. But I have friends who were on the first season of Love Hate, and there was only 4 episodes of that, and they pretty much like didn't think they were going to get a second season at all. And kind of even people who've been involved with it, kind of right before it really caught on, they were in other auditions, and people would see that on their CV and they would be kind of like, ugh, I mean, that gangster drugs thing, and kind of, so it was sort of like, it wasn't a sure bet. But then obviously, it 5 seasons, it was, I think it's Ireland's most successful homegrown show. And so now obviously, they're trying to replicate that. So it's like just kind of proving that there is the audience for something, because they don't, in the industry, it's kind of, I don't want to say mercenary, but it's like, oh, is it going to sell? Are people going to watch it? Then that's pretty much it. So it just requires someone to take a chance on someone with a good concept and a good idea, and just kind of proving that that's what can be done.
Yeah. It's a bit like when you pick up a newspaper, isn't it? And what sells is bad news, unfortunately.
Of course, yeah.
Good news doesn't sell. Unfortunately. That's why I don't look at the media or look at the news anymore, because
I don't either, no.
Yeah, it's just depressing shite. That's all it is. Depressing shite, Bobby.
Right. And I'm depressed enough as it is.
We all are. But what I was gonna say to you is, I'm gonna challenge you again with a question. I'm going to say to you, if you could be in any scene, in any film, in any moment at all in a film, does one spring at the top of your mind, one where you've watched and went, God, I'd love to be the person acting that scene?
Oh, that is so tough to say, because like usually the stuff you love, it's like a bunch of different elements and factors coming together, and that's what makes it great. And you're just thinking, oh, you take one of them out and put me in there, maybe it won't be as great. So
yeah,
I don't know about that.
To the top of your head, no,
I don't think so. Do you have one?
I wish I was Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption, crawling through the shit in the tunnel.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's understandable. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, oh God, I'm sorry. I really don't have an answer for that. There's a lot of
by the way.
Yeah, there's a lot of franchises that they kind of had their time, they're gone. That would have, I'd love to have a time machine and go back to. Like, obviously, I'm obsessed with Charmed. That's what my YouTube channel is basically dedicated to now. So it would have been nice to like be in there, like playing. I don't know, because it was very much about the sisters. So there's not really a role that I can play in there. But I don't know. Would have, yeah. It would have been nice to be.
It would have been cool to be in a battle, say like a big battle in Lord of the Rings or something. Just to see the actual what goes into it and everything else, and just to be there. Like we
Hmm.
even said it on Vikings, even that like that's not as big as Lord of the Rings, obviously, but it was a big production still.
Yeah.
And just
Hmm.
being around all that was an experience in itself. Um,
Oh, I'd love to be a Power Ranger as well. You know, that's
yeah, I actually, in fairness, I would have the Red Ranger. I loved because
yeah.
he was the king. He was the king, as they say.
I actually
Um,
got a for one of my Christmas presents was a personalized video message from him actually.
oh really? This Christmas gone, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Austin St. John who played Jason in the original Mighty Morphin series. You know, I kind of rediscovered my love of the franchise last year in what was an extremely tough year for me, and I'm sure Richie's going to ask me about that in a bit.
Yes,
But
sir.
yeah, so he's I mean, it was he has a service on his website where you can request a personalized video and he was just kind of telling me, it's like because I opened up to him about my struggles with depression and autism and all this stuff, and obviously I was thanking like him for it's like kind of realizing what that character meant to me, and he's saying like you say you're inspired by all of us, and like that's great, but you've done all this stuff, so like that was you as well, like you got to be proud of yourself as well, and
Hmm.
a lot of other stuff. He said it much more eloquently than I can, but
Yeah.
I've had to listen to that message a few times, during the darker days.
Yeah, but it's still a pretty cool message to get all the same from like
Hmm.
a childhood hero, basically.
Hmm.
Um, I think us as human beings, we do you think there's something there? Do you think there's a mechanicism there that we refuse to open up to people?
Yeah, definitely. Because I know for me, it took me. I mean, I would kind of suffer in silence for so long. I think mainly because there was I can remember it was the year 2014 that kind of really saw a change in the attitude towards like talking about mental health problems. Like I remember beforehand, anyone who even like kind of talked about it would be laughed at or like mocked, saying like, "Oh, they're just looking for attention," like, "Oh, they're so dramatic," and kind of all this stuff. But I remember in 2014 there were two things that happened that just completely changed the conversation almost overnight, and one you'll probably nod when I say, and the other you'll be a bit surprised by. Okay, the first is the death of Robin Williams.
Mm,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember like after that, like kind of the because I remember beforehand, whenever celebrities died, there would always be so many jokes about it online, and everyone was so heartbroken when he died, like myself included. I fucking wept.
no, I love Robin
Um,
Williams. Yeah, loved
yeah,
him.
like that changed completely overnight, and that encouraged more conversations, right? And the second thing was Frozen.
Mm,
Because the reason, I mean, people love to make fun of Let It Go these days, probably because it was very overplayed. But the whole appeal of that song in the first place was that like Elsa had been struggling with a problem for years. She was hiding something that she was afraid that people would mock and reject her for. And then when it was just exposed to the world, the song is basically about her just going like, "Fuck it, let it go.
mm,
I'm gonna be myself." And
mm,
it just that was a very sort of like real catharsis, and like it has like it's so applicable to so many different things. Like obviously it's most best known as a coming out anthem, but then it's also like again just mental health in general, or like eating disorders or autism and all this stuff as well. So kind of that's definitely something that the world was kind of starving for, and that has kind of I feel like since then we've become a bit better at opening up about mental health, but I still struggle at being honest with it as well.
yeah, yeah. But I think it's a normal instinct of a human being that we all have our good days and bad days. And I remember I used to be of the attitude that I would hold it all in.
Mm-hmm.
And oh well, people don't want to hear my problems. They're going through enough as it is. I'm just going to hold this in. I'm going to try and get through the best I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then it dawned on me that you can't really go through life like that. You have to have friends and family, and you have to vent no matter how long it takes or
Mm-hmm.
what it is you're hiding. You have to vent out, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to have ears that are willing to listen to your concerns and worries in life. And like about a month ago, I opened up about a few things, and I found it was just more rewarding when someone was there to listen. And to kind of give back the feedback that I needed.
Yeah, and
You need that core group.
and even so, like I know for me, there was something I read not too long ago that kind of really blew my mind. You know, about the whole you almost like say you don't want to talk about your problems because you don't want to burden other people with them, or you don't want to put something on someone who's maybe going through a hard time. You don't want to add to that. But then the post that I read, it said something that you underestimate how much people want to help and want to be helpful. And I started thinking of the amount of times where like I was in a bad way and not really telling about it, and then a friend told me, or like I knew that they were going through stuff, and I instantly just like it was instinct. I just wanted to help them and make them feel better.
Mhm.
And like helping them helped me as well because you're having that connection with people, I guess. So
Yeah,
it was like you're kind of giving people you're kind of giving people an opportunity you're to share the experience, I guess.
yeah. What's your opinion on people's overusage of social media in regards to mental health?
How do you mean, really? Do you mean like just
So,
like the
so do you,
hashtags and
yeah. So do you think like for people who are going through stuff and are constantly on social media scrolling and they're comparing their lives to others, and then you've people who are uploading a lot who are maybe kind of hiding, maybe nothing, maybe everything's not what it seems, and then it's almost like you're getting kind of from both sides. You're kind of getting this negativity. So this person's uploading to try and get away from their other life, and the person who's scrolling on social media is kind of seeing this person and is also trying to escape, but they end up feeling more down after. Do you think social media as an outlet causes more harm than good for a person's mental health?
I think it's a just kind of like anything else. It's a neutral tool for the most part,
Yeah.
and it kind of all depends on the attitude of the person who's interacting with it. Like because before we had Instagram, of course, the comparison was still happening. Like it was just happening to TV and magazines and all that sort of stuff. And so it's like it's just changed to kind of to what it is now. And but yeah, it can be, we have to kind of remind ourselves that, these people like who take these like really glamorous looking pictures, like they have to go, it's so much prep that have to go through to make that look the way it is. And again, you're only seeing a snapshot of someone's life and kind of what they allow you to see. And one thing I always try to do is I'm always like trying to walk a fine line between, I don't want to, like moan about all my problems online. I don't want to be one of those whiny people. But then again, I also don't want to, pretend everything's all right when it isn't. So I'm always like, if I'm feeling bad, I will kind of I will try to like be honest with everyone and, uh sort of share that. And I kind of hope maybe someone sees that and thinks that, okay, like Bobby's going through this as well. I'm going through this, maybe okay, like so maybe someone will see that and they won't feel so alone or kind of like that they're the only ones going through this. I'm not saying I have any kind of influence at all, but if it's even one person, like well that's still a whole person you've helped in some ways in whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I, I'm tempted to kind of veer slightly off topic of your question, and but it is still related and kind of talking a very long-winded story that I've told you a little bit about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's go. Let's go.
yeah. I mean, I've noticed that kind of. I've always found ways to sort of, whenever things have gotten tough, I've always sort of like found things to love, or kind of find things to get me through that. And I mean, I had to take a social media break, kind of a couple months. Yeah, it was the end of March, like from kind of the end of March up until the middle of May, I actually had to just like delete Instagram completely because I was just not in a good place where I could kind of see everyone living their lives and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to veer off topic. Did you have another question before I go
No,
into
no, you
this?
can go ahead. Come on ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm really fucking going for this then. Um, yeah, so it was kind of the end of 2021 and kind of oh, I've been going through some stuff. I mean, I told you what it was, but like I don't want to go into detail here. There was like a series of traumatic things that happened to me and kind of the start of 2022 they all kind of came to a head and left me in a really really bad place. Like I'll be honest, like I was having suicidal thoughts for a brief time and thankfully was able to pull myself out of that. And but I actually couldn't leave my house for a while. I actually couldn't leave my town for a while. There was I think three different film projects I was attached to that I just had to drop out of because I was just like I can't go anywhere. And anything that I did work on in that time was something that I'd already been committed to, so like I didn't want to let the director down. And I don't know how I kind of there was this barbershop that I went to and um yeah, I think I told you a little bit about it. I'm
Mm.
not going to name names, just protect these guys' privacy, right? But that kind of became like I don't want to say just like an escape from life or whatever, but it actually became a fucking lifeline after a while.
Mm.
And yeah, it kind of represents like a significant bit of growth in me, kind of like because I was struggling with a lot of textbook PTSD symptoms after I left my time in wrestling. Like the whole like hyper awareness, kind of afraid of like doing anything potentially wrong or whatever. And I can remember it was 2019. I first went to this place, and it's a cool place. I walked by it for a while, and my first thought was, I am nowhere near cool enough to belong here. I don't deserve to go into a place like that. I had like full on imposter syndrome just from looking in the door. And so I think because I was afraid to go in, that's why I actually kind of pushed myself to go in. And I remember going in and so fucking terrified, so fucking nervous. And so I go in and I sit down, and again, I have this huge imposter syndrome that um, like I don't belong here, I don't deserve to be here, or whatever. And I can remember one of the guys. He's a very distinctive looking gentleman. He's just kind of walks past, looks over at me. He's like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And I remember thinking that was a bit strange because it was a crowded day. Like I wasn't the only one in there, but it was like I must have obviously looked like to someone who needed that, right? And kind
Mm.
of we kind of go back there on and off. I remember kind of late 2021, kind of when I was going through some really bad shit. That's kind of when I decided I would make that my regular place because sorry, I hope you don't mind me rambling. Like this
No,
this
no,
is
it's
a
all
this is
good.
a this is a long-winded story, yeah. But
Yeah.
it was right before that scene that it's a showreel scene I filmed with my friend Adam Douglas, where we're both playing soldiers. We both have American accents, and he's opening up to me about having suicidal thoughts, and he's basically saying my thoughts in scene form, right? And I can remember my mindset that December. I'd had such a terrible experience in directing that I'd sworn off doing it again. So I was like, I'm gonna do the scenes to fulfill my commitment, and then I'm fucking done. I can't put myself through this again. And so obviously it's an army scene, so I need a crew cut. And I remember going to that place obviously a couple of days before to kind of get freshened up, and it's actually it's I think it's pretty empty, and it's just that guy in there, the very one who said hi to me like 2 years beforehand. And it was yeah, it was we had a conversation while he worked on me, and I had always found it so nerve-wracking to talk to people, and kind of, I was so afraid of saying the wrong thing or like coming across as whatever. Like I was so it might surprise you to know this about me, Richie, but I am actually so shy.
Mm.
Like, and that's one thing I always beat myself up about. Like I always get afraid to talk to people or whatever. And this guy he was just so nice to me, and he just like it was what I needed at the time. And he had no idea what he was doing for me. But and so because of that, I just decided, okay, that's going to be my regular place from now on. And I wish I could say after that that it was always like me going in there and being like, hey guys, and they're like, hey Bobby, but it wasn't. I was still so super scared to talk, so super nervous, like social anxiety killer, and especially kind of with the trauma that I'd gone through since then, and
Mm.
because obviously I was still stuck in I still kind of couldn't leave my bubble, but obviously I'm an actor, I got self tapes to do, I got auditions to do, so I got to keep. That was the thing that forced me out of my comfort zone to kind of go to that place and keep getting my haircut, and it kind of that place sort of led to me sort of recovering or like helping with my recovery in a lot of ways. Like there's I'll get to my point soon. There's two dates that I'll kind of always remember. There's July 4th, and it was a different guy who became my regular guy just kind of through pure coincidence, right? And he, a lot like me, very quiet. We would, yeah, I'd like just talk to him to like say what I wanted and then say thanks at the end. And I would feel bad that I didn't speak, as like I wanted to, but I was afraid to because that's what trauma does to you. I'm sure you know yourself. It kind of robs you of the chance to feel okay to be yourself, right? And so, but yeah, there was one day that it was the 4th of July, and it was me and Greg filmed a scene. You remember it only went online in January, but we filmed it back in July. It's like the two of us arguing in a garden, and yeah, so the day before that I had to get freshened up, and that was a day I finally felt brave enough to actually just like ask simple questions like, how are you? Okay, how's your day been? Like all this stuff, and it was a huge deal for me. And there was another guy there as well who their brother-in-law was actually, and I'd met him once or twice before in passing. And he didn't have any clients to work on, so he was like hovering over around us that day, and just like joining in the conversation. They were asking about me, and I was getting to know them, and that's the kind of stuff that just that's what's fun for me, like getting to connect with people and kind of getting to know people. And I want to say it was the first time in months, if not a year, that I'd ever just felt happy. Like it
Mm.
sounds like such a simple thing, like just sitting there, just having a talk with two good people, but like it meant so much to me at the time. And like I felt happy in a way I hadn't before, in so long. And it was even, the other guy, the one who wasn't working on me, he had to run out and get his lunch before I was finished. So afterwards I paid, and then I actually waited out on the street outside for him to come back. And because I knew he and just hugged him and said, like, I just have to say thank you,
Mm.
and kind of uh again, that summer was very difficult for me, but that was always the thing to look forward to, going there, and just hoping for something good, and it was still a struggle to find the courage to talk to people afterwards, but it was still something for me to look forward to, and it helped pull me out of a dark place. And I fucking love those two guys so much because yeah,
Yeah.
there's even one time that I ran into that guy after work, and he even just like offered to give me a lift to the train station and everything. And I didn't need it, it was like 5-10 minute walk from us, but I did it to have more time. And I was at the station afterwards, and I could just kind of feel tears kind of coming down my face because I just was I just wasn't used to being treated that way in a good way for so long. And sorry, the other date, August 31st. I remember this because obviously end of the summer, it had not been a summer I'd made the most of at all, and I felt really bad about having not made the most of it. So, but I was like, okay, it's the 31st, it's the last day of the summer. Go down and see the boys. Like maybe something good will happen. Okay, maybe you'll find something to kind of be good about. Okay, and original guy from the story, the first one who was nice to me, it's like my two regular guys weren't there, so he was there, and it was him who worked on me. And again, just some people are just born to do what they do.
Mm.
Just a really nice person, just a really good person. And I even kind of opened up to him. I was like, in a joking way, like he was like, I used to think I wasn't cool enough to come in here, and telling him about my autism and everything. And he was just like being really kind about that, and he's saying like, listen, we're just paid to be here. You're not any cool, we're not any cooler than you. You're great or one thing, and just like checking to make sure it's like you were nervous before, like how do you feel now and all that sort of stuff. And actually, I mean, if I had a time machine, I could. Those are 2 days I would love to just kind of go back and relive for a bit. And when we were finished, like he was even saying stuff like, it's like, oh, how's that for you, Bobby? And I actually just kind of froze. I was like, you remember my name?
Mm.
Hopefully it didn't sound condescending, like, you remember my name. But yeah, I assume I'm just like completely white bread and nondescript, and you wouldn't remember me at all. And
Mm.
even so, like I followed all of them on Instagram at the time, and like would always post about being there. So obviously they would know me. But it felt it meant so much to me that again, just doing his job, just being a good person, but it was exactly what I needed at the time. And I remember like kind of as I was playing, I was like, do we hug? And he's just like, oh yeah, and hugs me. And it just again, like there was for the next few months, it was a time I was really living for those visits, like that was kind of for a long time, that was kind of all I had. And yeah, I mean, there were a couple of other guys there that, I got to know as well. Not as well as those three, but I loved them as well. And um yeah, they've all kind of moved on from that place now, and it was it devastated me when I got the news, but sorry, I thought I had a point to make and I can't remember what it was. Can can
That's
can
all
you
good.
try and guess work out the point that I was trying
Um,
to make there?
Basically, how it's the little things and it's the people that can lift you
Mm-hmm.
at the most surprising times when you don't expect it, and
Yeah.
fitting in where you don't think you fit in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Kind of
Yeah.
like unlearning the lessons that I taught myself in, as a kid to kind of survive the bullying or whatever.
Mm.
And, you know, um, so I don't even know where to go from there. I'm sorry.
You're all
I
good.
kind of talked over you for a long time there.
But it's a story. It's a story that needs to be shared because you're not the only one out there who goes through those things and that, and I feel if
Mm-hmm.
more people opened up like what you did just now, like it'd be a much better society, and we'd have much more clarity and freedom and more of an open mind to get out what needs to be let out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, what I'm getting from that is that you're at a dark stage in your life, and the couple of guys there, just by chatting to them, just dug you out of that hole and
Mm-hmm.
gave you kind of something to be happy about and something to be excited about to go to every week. It became a routine.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the one harsh thing about life is that, you don't realize what you have until it's gone. And
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in places and all, and you start to lose contact with people and everything else. And you start to think back of like memories that you would have had with them. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think people realize what you have and that time moves on,
Yeah, I mean,
going to cherish them.
yeah, and obviously, kind of once the it was the end of the era. I just kind of look back on all the times that even after all those guys being so friendly to me, there were so many times that I was still too afraid to like say hi as much, and too afraid to hug, and
Mm,
too afraid to make it as obvious as it was that, those are some of the only times in 2022 that I was happy being there, because I always just told myself, like, oh, there'll be time for that later, it's like, put it off for the future, you think something's going to last forever, and when it doesn't, well, you're kind of left with his regrets. So, I
yeah,
mean, that
yeah.
original guy who was the first one was nice to me. When you know when he left, like I actually sent him a big long message, kind of summarizing what I just told you there, saying like I was going through a really bad time. You were always so nice to me, and I was just so fucking lucky to know you.
Mm,
And
mm, mm,
his response actually kind of made me sort of cry uncontrollably for a few hours.
yeah.
And I'm actually not a crier, which yeah, that probably surprises you as well. Yeah, I think
Sometimes the best thing you can do is cry, Robbie.
yeah, I
We
mean
all
it's
learn
something
that.
you need to do because it's how your body processes like stress or bad emotions. But I think that was probably that was probably like just a culmination of a lot of things that have been going on with me. Because like I think I had mentioned to you before, I suffered a couple of deaths in my family kind of very
Mm,
recently, and there's just other stuff as well. So it was probably just sort of the last straw that kind of set me off. And like for the next day, I even had to kind of leave the room and kind of go to another quiet room and just kind of cry a bit in peace. It's the only time, Greg, my best friend, like it's the I've known him since 2019, and it's the only time in our 4 years, 5 years, yeah, well, only time in that friendship that he's ever had to deal with me crying.
mm,
And well, and he's there's times where I've been there for him as well. So it's like, guys, you can be there for your friends. Don't if they're real friends, they will be there for you.
mm. Brilliant.
Mhm.
That is amazing. It's a great story to share because it helps people out there and everything else, and kind of defines who you are as a person and the struggles you went through and how you're kind of coming out the other side of that and everything else. And
Yeah.
again, going and following your passion of filmmaking and acting and everything else, and it's great to see. But
And you're following your passions as well.
yes, I'm trying my best to. I'm trying my best to.
I mean, didn't you've recently graduated? Well,
Well,
finished up college for,
yeah, yeah. My graduation now is the end of October, early
Mhm.
November. So yeah, so it's that was a big milestone. That was,
Mhm.
but
Because you've been there for how many years now?
oh, in total, I would have been in Dunleary for 2 years, and then I was in this college for 4 years.
So
So
that's basically, yeah, like you basically did high school all over again.
yeah, basically, yeah. That's what someone said to me. Actually, we've done about 12 years or even more in school and education and stuff.
Yeah, it's like 6 years of primary school, then another 6 years. So it's like
Yeah,
what, 18 years,
yeah,
like a
yeah,
whole legal adult's lifetime.
yeah. It's unbelievable when you think about it, isn't it?
Hmm. But I am
Um,
so proud of you for what you've done. Like,
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you
I
very much
mean,
a lot.
I think I've always admired your drive and kind of your thirst to kind of try new things and all this sort of
Yeah.
thing. And like, I'm always going to be proud of you for everything you do.
Cheers, Bobby. Likewise for me as well. So I have a few more questions, and then I'm going to bring you into an either or segment. This is
Oh, I
another
like
new
it.
either or segment I've brought in. But
Mhm.
I want to know if I could lay out for you your kind of without defining everything, without knowing everything, but a prediction of where the next few years would go for you. What would be the ideal scenario or stepway for you to be happy and to be successful and whatever else?
I,
What does that look like?
well, I'm trying to get a feature film off the ground called Life on Pluto now, and I wrote it back during first lockdown, and Greg helped me out with it a bit, and we're kind of finally doing like the last bit of restructuring to get it off the ground, and I'm actually going to direct, and it's going to be my first feature film, and I would like for it to be kind of the start of me kind of getting the chance to, because I have so many scripts already written, like feature scripts, and I want to get them made to like a good quality and like get proper funding so that we can pay everyone and kind of like just and I can kind of give these roles to all these great actors that I know can do that, and there'll be an audience who will actually get to see them, in action. And obviously, the more visible you are, the more people are going to want to work with you. So I would love for that to kind of show people like what I'm capable of, and them to go, okay, we want Bobby in our project right now,
Yeah,
and obviously I would like to sell my book, The Shallow Ocean, the children's book.
yeah.
I would like for that to, well, ideally you'd want that to be a bestseller, making you
Hmm.
loads of money and also touching the hearts of people involved, because it's something I really loved writing, and I can't wait to share it with the world.
Yeah.
And obviously my YouTube channel, I'd like that to continue to grow. I've been very lucky with how it's grown so far, and I really enjoy doing it, and I would love for all of this great stuff to be sustainable and for me to not have to worry about it.
Hmm.
And in terms of you know, non, non stuff like that, in terms of the the more personal stuff, I just like to, always make sure I'm making time for my friends and just what am I saying? Just I'm not so focused on work and making and creating things that I forget to have an actual life as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
and hopefully we'll have had many nights where you're staying over with me, and
Yes,
we can
absolutely.
we can bring our little pet Nathan along, and we can we
Yes,
can we
exactly.
can feed him and take care of him and have get and entertain him and show him a good time.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And
Very
these
weird.
and a lot of good friends that I've made now that it's obviously life is going to separate us and take us in different directions.
Yeah,
So I'm learning to get better at keeping in touch with people, and
yeah. It's essential.
yeah, hopefully these people that mean a lot to me right now, they don't become strangers in 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. Brilliant stuff. Well, you've a lot going for you at the minute, Bobby. A lot of different projects. So your rate of succession heightens, and if you have that drive and ambition, you'll get there with one of them anyway. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
multiple. But
Oh,
it's time
well,
now for either or.
okay,
I
this
can
is
say,
this is
but
gonna be cool.
if I had a ringtone or something, I might add it in After Effects or something. I might add in
Go
an
for it.
sound effect. Right, Bobby. So I put together just a few either ors,
Are
and
these are these not safe for work questions?
no.
Oh,
And if you could you give me just a small sentence or reason after why you've chosen it, right?
okay.
All right, so here we go. So, number one, cats or dogs?
Oh, cats easily. I knew this was going to be one of them.
Why is that?
I'm I'm actually terrified of dogs.
Really?
Yeah, it's definitely bias. It comes from kind of where I live. Once you see where I live, I will show you. It has been a magnet for the worst dog owners in existence in the 20 plus years I've been living there. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know how many different dogs I've been attacked by over the years. So obviously
brilliant.
not all dogs, just some of them have personalities that they're not going to gel with, whereas cats I just love.
Yeah. Acting or directing?
Acting, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Past films or present films?
Oh, I'm gonna go with past because so many classics that we can still learn from, and just I love them as well because they're a real time. A lot of them are real time capsules of the eras they were made in.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
So it's
think
come,
I'd
so it's
agree
fun
with
to
that one.
relive. Yeah.
Would you rather be in an action film or a horror film?
Oh, that is so tough. I'm gonna go for horror because I know the fans are just the best. So it's like, I mean, say I'm in a slasher film, I can go to a convention and everyone will just be really nice to me.
Yeah, yeah. Geez, these are actually quite random. You don't know where some of these are coming from. Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck?
I'm gonna go with Bugs because
Okay.
what's up, Doc? I remember more of him than I do of Daffy.
Okay. All right. Chocolate digestives or Jaffa cakes?
Jaffa cakes easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, they feel less heavy on you. Like I
Yeah.
feel I could eat a whole packet of them, whereas like digestives, I could maybe only have one or two.
Okay. Fair enough. Tato or King?
Mm. King.
King.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I just have memories of like when you're a kid and you're in the pub and they give you King crisps and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just I just remember loving the taste. Like
I don't know.
the
I couldn't turn my nose up at a Tato sandwich, Bobby.
I mean, they're not my preferred. Neither of them are my preferred crisp brand. I think
Yeah.
Walkers, or I'm really into O'Donnell's lately. The
Yeah.
hand cooked crisps. I really love them.
Nice. Nice. Hot shower or cold shower?
Hot. I know cold is meant to be better for you, but it's like heaven when you're in just like you're just a hot shower and it's just
Yeah.
it's like
Relaxation.
purifying you. I might
Travel
actually
by
have one
bus
when
or
we're done.
travel by train?
Oh, bus or train.
Mm,
I'm gonna go with train because it's usually much more comfortable, and you don't have to rely as much on knowing where you're going because the stop always has a sign saying where it is, and it's generally much more relaxing.
yeah, it's
It was
not as
like bus.
stressful. Shitty 133. Um, here's a random one: tennis or cricket?
I'm going for tennis because I don't really understand cricket, and I
Yeah,
enjoyed playing tennis as a kid.
brilliant. Becky Lynch or Finn Balor?
Oh, I'm gonna. Oh, that's so hard. You know, I've met
Yeah,
both of them, and they're both really lovely. But I'm gonna go with Becky. You know, I was a women's wrestling journalist, so you know, I gotta support the girls.
very good, very
Both
good,
lovely people, though. It's very hard to choose between them.
brilliant. Australia or USA?
That is tough because I've been to both. Um, this is. I did not expect this to be the hardest one.
This one's
Okay,
very easy.
I'll go for America because there's the bigger film industry there, so I'm probably going to be working there more.
Ah, brilliant stuff. And finally, Richie or any other podcaster in the history of podcasting?
I mean, do you even need the answer to that?
No, no, not
You're the
really. I
best.
just
You're the
throw it
best.
in.
You're the best, Richie. I love you.
Sorry, I had to throw it in. Sorry.
Hmm.
So that's the end of either or. That's a nice little thing I like to add in.
Oh, I loved it. You know, I could probably do that all day. We could just Richie just like have me on for an episode that's just that.
Are you a fade man or non-fade man? I think you're a fade man, aren't you?
What's that?
For haircuts, like
Oh, fate. Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah. I mean, thanks to the guys that I spent a long time rambling about. You know, I can never not have a skin fade anymore. I'm
yeah,
just and the fact that you know you have to go down every 2 weeks to get it touched up. You know, it's yeah, it became a whole event for me. You know.
yeah, yeah.
What about
Bobby,
you?
um, I don't like buzz cuts. I don't like buzz cuts. I've tried them.
Hmm.
They don't suit me, but they seem to suit other people way better than just doesn't work for me for some reason. I think it's that my eyebrows are a bit off centered. So it
Yeah,
doesn't
they don't really
really
suit me. Like this I only have because a role called for it. So, but
yeah,
you know, I'm already
yeah,
missing my length.
yeah. But they don't suit me, but they suit you, Bobby. You see what I mean? Like you're fucking perfect at everything. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Trying to be so harsh about it, but yeah. Um, right now, Bobby, I may go now because I'm going to watch the Late Late Show,
Oh.
and because I need to, because I need to get there eventually. But
So that is the weirdest reason someone has ever had for ending a call with me.
I know I'm very sorry, Bobby. No, really, in all honesty, I'd like to thank you for coming on the first episode, Bobby, for
Oh
this.
well,
And I have to say that I know we had you on the ground away, but that you really opened up here on this one, and it's something that is going to really help a lot of people when they listen to it.
Oh well, you know.
And they get to see our beautiful faces, Bobby, as well, which is something different. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Oh well, you know. We didn't want to make people too uncomfortable, so we just this is just how we look anyway. You know, we didn't
Yeah,
if we really wanted to make you guys envious, we'd you know spend like there was one time during first oh no, it was 2021, and I
yeah,
was one funny story before we go.
yeah, yeah.
These two girls, shout out Hannah Grace and Sheena Shannon, who we love. I met them over Zoom, and this was the first time meeting in person. And I decided to go to a lot of effort, and I ended up spending 90 minutes getting ready.
Jesus.
And I don't usually do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and yeah, I kept doing more and more stuff to beautify myself, and I was like, I spent the length of a feature film in this bathroom trying to get ready.
I hope they were impressed at the end of it.
Yeah, they thought when I told them, I thought Sheena thought I said 19. I was like, no, 90. She's like, 90?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Hmm.
Can't
I don't think
you
I,
can't
yeah.
fault your dedication, Bobby,
What's the longest you've ever spent getting ready for anything
for anything.
in terms of appearance, you know?
I'd usually only grab a shower and get changed.
Okay.
No, it's
So,
very lazy. It is very lazy. I know that, but
well,
yeah.
that's because Richie, you look so beautiful naturally anyway.
Stop, will
The
you
rest of
stop
us
that?
have the rest of us have to like spend hours in preparation to even
Oh.
look half as good as you.
You don't have to either, for God's sake. Right. Bobby, I will see you hopefully again shortly. Would you come back on, would you, if I had a topic that
Of course, you know,
Yeah,
any excuse to talk about myself, you know.
brilliant, brilliant.
We actors are all narcissists.
Still great actor stuff. Still great for
Mhm.
society. Right, Bobby.
Do we have
Thanks
a
a million.
catchphrase?
That's something I need to work on with this new thing. It used to be stay grounded, remember?
Oh, I can. Oh, you wanna test the potential one I gave you a while ago?
Come on.
Richie Kaye, motherfucker.
Richie Kaye, motherfucker. I like it. That's going to be it, right? So that's what
Hmm.
we're going to go with. So,
Yep.
Richie Kaye, motherfucker.